will get into our cross-legged seated position. Take a moment to just gently close the eyes. Find rest and ease into your body. Maybe you just do a quick little body scan to witness what's going on. Maybe you notice your breath. What is your breath telling you? How does it feel to just be in a moment of stillness? We're going to go ahead, take 3 deep cleansing breaths together. So go ahead, breathe in from the nose and sigh it out. On your next inhale, I want you to feel the breath going in from your throat, in from your nose. See if you can expand this area, bring attention here. So go ahead, take a deep breath in. And release. Go ahead, take a final deep breath in. And exhale out. Slowly, we're starting to make some neck circles. So dropping your ear towards your shoulder, dropping your chin forward, and making sure that we're being mindful of our movement and we're not just aimlessly rocking our head from side to side. Maybe you go the opposite way. And see if you can spread your awareness. Notice in your shoulders the tension going away as you start to roll the neck from side to side. Inhaling your way back up. We're going to warm up the obliques a little bit. So we're going to extend our left hand out towards the side in line with our hip. The right hand is going to come up and over, reaching towards the left. Making sure to keep that right knee relaxed down. And we're going to incorporate a little bit of mobility. So the right hand is going to collapse over towards the left knee. So now we're in a twisted spine. And then inhale that right hand back up and over the ear, reaching towards the left. Exhale, bring that right hand back down. And inhale, expanding that chest back up. Take one more. And then this time, instead of opening your chest back up, we're going to walk our hands towards the front of the mat and feel a nice stretch on the back of the body, maybe even the hips. Take a deep breath in and exhale out. Slowly start to lift your way back up. Coming into that cross-legged seated position. And this time the right hand comes out towards the right and the left hand will raise up and over towards the right. The left hand. Take a deep breath in. And on your exhale, the left hand comes across the body, reaching over towards the right. Inhale, lifting up. And exhale, coming back down. So you can go at your own pace, just making sure that you pace your breath with your movement. So your inhale, you expand up. And on your exhale, you collapse that left hand down. And then slowly start to walk your hands back towards center on your last round. Reaching your arms forward. Breathing here into the back space of the body. And then slowly starting to roll your way back up, coming into that cross-legged seated position. Take a moment here to find your breath. We're gonna warm up the wrists a little bit just because we might be getting on our wrists a lot more today. So we're gonna interlace our hands and start to make figure eights. So notice which way you're going and see if you can invite softness into the wrist, especially if you're on the computer a lot all day. And then go the opposite way. And you can slowly start to release the hands. Notice if your wrists need any other type of movement or warm up, maybe even the fingers. And then we're gonna come onto our hands and knees to come into a tabletop position. We're gonna warm up the spine, coming into a cat-cow. So the hands are stacked underneath the shoulders, the knees are hip width apart, and on our inhale, we're going to sink into the belly, drop into the shoulders, arch the back, and your gaze is up. On your exhale, you're gonna press into your hands and knees, round in the back, pulling the belly button up towards the spine. Inhale, drop in the belly, arch the back, and exhale. Again, you can find your own rhythm, find your own momentum with your breath. Just pacing your inhales as you drop the belly, and your exhales as you round the back. See if you can feel the fluidness in your spine. Where does it feel choppy? And where does it feel smooth? Where does it feel consistent? Go ahead, take one more wherever you're at. And then go ahead and neutralize the spine. And we're gonna start to come into warming up the core. So we're gonna do some bird dogs. We're gonna press into the right hand, lean into the left knee. The left hand is gonna come up, and we're gonna press through the right heel to extend that right leg out. On your exhale, you're gonna bring your left elbow to your right knee, coming into a crunch. Inhale to expand out, and exhale to round the back, bringing the knee to elbow. Making sure that you're finding balance between the opposite limbs. What I like to say is pretend like you're on a mattress or on a paddle board, and this will kind of help incorporate the balance. Bring attention to your lower back. Do you notice your lower back starting to arch and cave in? Or can you keep a relatively smooth back so that we're not necessarily moving from the hips, but we're engaging the core? We're gonna take two more. And then you can go ahead, drop the left hand, the right knee down. Notice the fire in your core, just the heat starting to warm up. And we'll do the same thing on the opposite side. So press into the left hand, the right knee, the right hand comes up, and the left leg extends back. See if you can reach through the opposite limbs energetically, so through your fingertips all the way to the sole of your left foot. Take a deep breath in. And exhale, go ahead, crunch the left knee towards the right elbow. Inhale, extend up. And exhale to crunch. See if you can keep intention through the neck as well. So we're not collapsing the neck down, but as we inhale and extend ourselves up, we're reaching through the crown of our head. Maybe you notice activation of your right glute to help support the hips from caving in, and as well as the left shoulder. We want to make sure that we don't sink into the joints as we create this strength and heat and mobility. Go ahead, take one more. And come back down onto all fours. We're going to come to lean onto our right side. So bringing your hips down towards the right, you can come down onto your right forearm, your right elbow. And as we lay down on this side, I want to make sure that we're not sinking down into the right shoulder, into the joint, but we're pressing through that right shoulder. So we're activating the right shoulder and the serratus muscle. Our left hand is going to come onto our left hip. And with our left foot, we're starting kind of like pretending like we're riding a bike. So we're going to bend the knee up, then round it back, extending it all the way down, and then bringing it forward, bending the knee. So maybe we're riding the bike backwards, but we're gonna go both ways. And notice your left hand. Notice if your hip starts to arch itself forward or back. See if you can relatively maintain the strength and kind of integrity through that hip. So really it's not the hip that's collapsing forward or back, but it's just the hip socket that's moving. So this is activating the hip flexor and the glute muscle. And then notice your breath. And then when you finalize this round, we're going to go the opposite way. So now we're pressing down, bringing the knee back. And you'll notice activation of the quad, the hamstring, and seeing if we can use these big muscles versus relying on the knee joint. Maybe your toes are spread open nice and wide. We're going to take two more. Notice your core supporting you. And you can relax that left leg down, shake it out, anything that feels comfortable for you. And then we're going to come a little bit more onto our elbow. And we're going to target the outside of the left glute. So our heels are going to come together. Our knees are going to be slightly bent. Our left hand remains either on our left hip or it can come down in front of us. And I want you to pretend like there's a weight on the outside of your left knee, kind of like you're lifting your left knee up, pressing a button. This is going to help activate that adductor muscle. And this is really good for those that essentially sit down a lot all day. Essentially, we're doing some clamshells. This is also great for the pelvic floor muscles. I want to make sure that when you're bringing that left knee back down, that we're using control, that we're not just allowing it to aimlessly kind of wobble back and forth, but we're using control to bring that left knee back down. And you'll notice different engagement with that muscle. Let's do 2 more. And then slowly you can roll over onto your bellies. Coming into a Sphinx pose. The elbows are gonna come underneath our shoulders. Our hands are spread open nice and wide. Pressing into our elbows, so we're rolling the shoulders down and back. Pressing onto the tops of our feet. And it's kind of like we're trying to slide the mat from underneath us. Maybe you feel a hip flexor stretch. Maybe you feel activation of the back muscles. See if maybe you can, I know this is weird, but create like a double chin, kind of like you're trying to press your head into the wall behind you. This will activate the whole entire posterior chain, which is going to help counteract the muscles that we use when we sit down. Take 1 more deep breath in. And exhale out. Here you can roll over onto your left side. And we're going to do the same thing here. So we're pressing into that left shoulder or the left elbow. So we're not sinking down into the left elbow or the shoulder. We're pressing the shoulder away from us. The right hand comes on our right hip, and we're slightly going to extend our legs out so there's a little micro bend within the knees. They can come out directly or diagonal from us if this helps with our balance. And then we're just going to do those bicycle rotations. So go ahead, bend that right knee up in front of you, and then pressing it down, bringing the foot behind, curling the heel, and then bringing the knee back up. Notice the activation of the glutes, the hamstring, and how the whole body works as a whole. Maybe you notice you're pressing into your left leg, on the outside of your left leg, just for support, especially with rotating. We want to make sure that we're not really falling forward or back. So pressing down into that left leg might help support our balance. Go ahead, take 2 more. And then we're gonna go the opposite way. So it's cool, because I don't know about you, but I'm feeling this definitely in my shoulder. And so it's not just a glute workout or a leg workout, but I'm feeling it on my left shoulder. Finding your breath. Maybe you start to move a little bit slower than what you're used to. Take 1 more. And then you can relax that right leg on top of your left. Come down onto your left elbow. Your left hand presses into your head. Your knees are gonna come more bent, more in front of you. Our hand either comes onto our right hip or down in front. The heels are touching together. Toes are activated. And then go ahead, press into the outside of that right knee to lift that knee up. See if you can keep the ribs contracted so that the ribs aren't flaring out and it's creating an arch within the back. Should feel a good activation on the outside of that left glute, the right glute, excuse me. We want to make sure that our hips aren't rolling forward and back either. We're going to do 2 more. And then go ahead, roll over onto your bellies. And instead of a Sphinx pose, we're going to come into a modified plank. So the hands are still open up nice and wide. The shoulders are stacked over the elbows. The toes tuck. And then go ahead, lift the hips off the mat. Tucking the ribs down, making sure that our back is relatively flat. The glutes are not sticking up. We're going to take a deep breath in. We're going to hold it for probably another 15 seconds. Notice how your core is operating here. I'm shaking as well, so I hope that you are too. See if you can press into your elbows so that we're activating the shoulder blades so that they're spreading apart from one another. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You can drop onto your knees. And we're actually going to come into a child's pose. So go ahead, press your heels up, or press your chest up. The feet are going to come together. The knees are going to come wide. And go ahead, rest your hips onto your heels. And your belly comes over in between your thighs. Your hands come out in front of you. And just rest your forehead here. Taking a few deep breaths. Starting to calm the body down just a little bit. Training your body how to manage with chaos, to settle it down. And even if it's about to get reactivated again, take one more deep breath in. And sigh it out. Go ahead, start to press into your hands, rolling your way up to come into a tabletop position. We're gonna tuck the toes, coming into a downward facing dog, straightening out the legs, pressing into the heels, even if they don't touch. You can keep a micro bend within the knees. Just make sure that we're keeping a flat back so we're pressing our chest towards our thighs. The hips are rolled up towards the ceiling. And maybe you pedal out your dog, bending one knee at a time, or you can keep them straight. Finding your breath. And then slowly start to inch your hands just about an inch in front of you. We're going to come into, roll ourselves into a high plank. So go ahead, with each vertebrae, press into your toes to feel the momentum of your hips coming forward, rounding the back, and then your shoulders come over your wrists, over your hands. And we're going to hold here for about 15 seconds. So now we're just in more of an advanced plank. If you want to come down onto your knees, you can always come down onto your knees. And actually, if you want a little bit more of a challenge, you can go ahead, drop your knees down and then straighten them back up. See if you can maintain integrity with the shoulders, lifting them up and down. You're gonna be here for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Slowly you can start to send your hips back, start to walk your hands back to meet your feet, and coming into a forward fold. You can grab opposite elbows, you can rock from side to side, but just notice the strength and the foundation that you feel in your core. And slowly starting to roll your way up, coming into a standing mountain pose position. So it's cool because these mountain poses should replicate our plank poses, but just this time standing up. We're going to drop our right foot in front of us. We're coming into a warrior one pose. So the left toes are angled slightly towards the left corner of the mat. The right foot is pointed straight forward. The hips are squared, so you'll be getting an internal rotation of that left hip. The hands are going to come up overhead. Seeing if you can square it. So there should be a little distance between our legs. It doesn't have to be such a wide stance. Take a deep breath in and exhale out. Our right hand is going to come on towards our right thigh. Or we're going to laterally reach the left hand up and over towards the right. So you should feel a good stretch on the left side of the body, maybe even the hip flexor. The goal is to squeeze the glutes so we're pressing our pelvis forward. Take a deep breath in and exhale out. Inhale, come back up towards center. We're going to hinge from the hips, so pressing the heart space forward. We're going to come parallel to the ground. So the arms come out in front of us, the chest comes down towards the mat. And slowly we're going to inch that left foot up just a tiny bit until we feel the balance, the steadiness within that right foot. And if you feel that balance, you can go ahead and lift that left leg off the mat, coming into a warrior three. Now here you should feel activation throughout that left foot, feeling it all the way to the sole of the foot. Kind of like when we were doing those bicycle kicks, you should feel strength in the lower back, the pelvis, or the pelvic floor muscles. Take a deep breath in, reach through your arms, find your balance, and exhale, slowly rotating up to come into a standing pose. The left foot is going to come across the body. So now our legs are crossed. And then we're inhale, going to forward fold, coming down, taking a nice deep stretch on the back of our body and taking care of any sciatic stress. And slowly rolling your way back up to come into that standing position. You can release the cross of your legs. You can shake out anything that feels good for you. And then get ready because we're going to do the same thing on the opposite side. So if you're sitting on the front of your mat, you can go ahead, drop that right foot back about 3 feet or so. The right toes are going to point towards the right corner of the mat. The left knee has a little bit of a bend. The hips are squared towards the front of the mat, getting that internal rotation on that right hip. Inhale the hands up, feeling that stretch on the right side of the body. And then you can go ahead, bring the left hand down onto the left thigh and take a gentle tilt or lateral bend over towards the left, making sure that our hips don't collapse, but they're being squared towards the front. And to ensure this, we're pressing on the outside of that right heel. Take one more deep breath in and exhale out. Inhale your way back up towards center. Starting to hinge from the hips, start to make your chest parallel towards the mat. Slowly starting to inch that right foot up until you feel that sturdiness within that left leg. And as soon as you feel sturdiness within that left leg, reach through your right heel to lift that leg off the mat. Coming into a warrior 3, your hands can be out in front of you, or they can be out towards the side so your fingers point backwards. Whatever it is, just make sure that you're squeezing your glutes, you're activating your core, so you're tucking the ribs down. So if you think of kind of like a vertical line and a horizontal line through your navel, through your belly button, everything's trying to constrict towards that belly button. Take one more deep breath in, really reach through your limbs. And inhale, slowly rising your way back up and crossing the right leg over the left. And exhale, forward fold. Allow your head to hang heavy. Maybe you sway from side to side. And then slowly starting to roll your way back up. You can release the cross of the legs. Take a moment to just allow the blood flow to come back to a neutral position. Then we're going to inhale our hands back up overhead and exhale, forward fold. Either you can walk your hands out in front of you or step your feet back, depends where you're at on your mat. Come back into that downward facing dog. You're going to press into that left heel. Inhale, the right foot comes up overhead. So we're reaching the toes up towards the ceiling. The shoulders are squared. And then go ahead, bend that right knee and stack the right hip over the left. So we're opening up the hips towards the right. See if you can tilt that left heel to go in towards the center of the mat. Take one more deep breath in and exhale, bring that right foot back down towards the mat. We're going to do the same thing on the opposite side. So go ahead, press into that right leg. Inhale the left leg up towards the ceiling. And then bending that left knee and stacking the left hip over the right, opening up the hips. The shoulders are squared. Take one more deep breath in. And exhale, square the hips. And this time we're going to bring the left foot all the way towards the outside of the left hand. And drop it into that right knee. So the right knee is on the mat. The left foot is on the outside of the left hand. And we're going to start to calm the body down, cooling it down, and coming into our lizard pose. So if this feels good, you can stay here. If you want to walk the left foot out towards the side a little bit more, you can as well. If you want to press that left knee away from you and roll over onto the left side of your foot, so the sole of your foot is perpendicular to the mat. If you want to come down onto your forearms, you can always come down onto your forearms as well. If you want to use blocks, you can. It really just depends where you're at. Starting to utilize your breath to calm the body down, cool the body down. Take one more deep breath in. And exhale out. You can start to press back into your hands, straighten or flatten that left foot. We're gonna draw a little bit in towards the left hand, so now we're coming more into a low lunge. The left toes are going to turn out towards the left corner of the mat, just so slightly. And then we're gonna drop our hips down towards the right. So they don't necessarily have to touch, and you can adjust that left foot for what feels comfortable for you. But now we're just targeting a different stretch in that left hip. You might even feel a good stretch on the right side of the body, and knowing that this is a really good stretch for the lower spine. We're going to be here for 2 more deep breaths, so see if you can breathe fully into the belly. And then pressing into that left foot, lift your hips back up, and you can release that left leg, extending it back, making any movement that feels comfortable for you. And then we're going to do the same thing on the opposite side. So the right foot comes out towards the outside of that right hand. If it wants to come off the mat, it can as well. If you want a deeper stretch, you can roll over onto the right side of your foot, opening up that knee out towards the right, coming into our lizard pose. You can stay up here on your hands, you can come down onto your forearm, whatever feels comfortable in your body, and specifically on this side, knowing that your body is different and one side can feel different than the other. Taking one more deep breath in and exhale out. You can come back onto your hands if you're on your forearms. Come back into the sole of that right foot. Walking the right foot in towards the right hand. The toes are going to point out towards the right corner of the mat. And maybe you'll feel the momentum continue as you drop your hips down towards the left. Your right foot might scooch back a little bit, and that's okay as well. But here you're gonna get a nice external stretch on that right hip. And feel a good oblique stretch on the left side of the body. So again, if this feels uncomfortable for you, it's just asking yourself, how does my body need to be modified or repositioned in order to feel comfortable and safe in this position? Come back into your breath. Taking one more deep breath in and exhale out. So you can press into that right foot, lifting your hips back up, and then release that right leg back, making any movement that feels good for the hips. And one of our final poses, we're gonna just stretch the core, stretch the shoulders, coming into puppy pose. So the hips remain stacked over the knees, hip width apart. The hands are going to start walking out in front of you until you bring your chin, your chest down towards the mat. Maybe your forehead comes down, maybe your chin. Your elbows can be lifted up, they can be planted on the ground. Whatever feels comfortable for you. Maybe you feel a stretch on the core. Maybe you feel it more in the shoulders. Go ahead, start to take one more deep breath in and exhale out. You can start to press your hands back to come up into a tabletop position. And however you'd like to get there, we're going to roll onto our backs. Our knees can come in towards the chest. You can rock from side to side. Hold yourself for a moment here. And then slowly you can extend your legs out all the way in front of you. Your hands can come by your side. Coming into our final resting pose, Shavasana. And if your eyes would like to rest here, you can gently close them. Just allow this moment to integrate the space, the movements. You can slowly start to welcome a breath back into the body, and maybe some movement by wiggling the hands, the ankles. Maybe you take a deep stretch with your hands up overhead. And then you can gently roll your way onto either side to gently press your way up to a cross-legged seated position. Taking a moment to just witness the changes, the space, the strength, stability in your body. And most importantly, honoring yourself for showing up. Your hands can come to prayer pose in front of your heart. May you stand in your light and cherish it. Malama Pono. Thank you so much for practicing with me today. Until next time.